Matt Zacher, Mayor.
Dennis Fox, 6th Ward Alderman.
All right, so for the Joint Review Board, the only one we're missing at this time is Aaron Nelson from the Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools. Have not heard anything, assuming he would be here. Kyle Kearns, our Community Development Director, is joining us on Zoom. But we do have a quorum to be able to move forward. So at this point in time, we'll move on to item 3, just taking care of some in-house business. Right now, Jerry Bach is our public member, and I guess I would just put it to the board as to if we would like Jerry to join us for another term, and if so, we'll take a vote on that as Jerry as our public member. I would go ahead and say yes. Yeah, and yep. And Carrie, what are your thoughts? Okay. So, and you're good with it, Jerry? All right. We appreciate your time. So we'll go ahead and re-sit Jerry Bach as our public member, and then also item B as a chairperson. Just found out recently I am the chairperson. And if you would like me to stay the chairperson, I'm fine doing that. Or if you would like to take on the position of chairperson, you can do that. So. All right. Well, let's make them, we'll make, if you want to make an emotion, and if you want to second it, and then all those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed? All right. So then I will remain the chairperson. All right, item 4. We have Phil Cosson from Ellers Public Finance Advisors here to guide us through the conversations for joint review board and the upcoming 4, 5, and 6. So, Jerry.
Right. All right. Thank you,
Phil,
Mayor.
sorry,
Phil
Phil.
Costa with Ellers. Nice to be back with you here, seeing a familiar face. So first item is responsibilities of the Joint Review Board. I don't know the experience everybody has in regards to the Joint Review Board, but what we are going to ask of you and what your requirements are is to review the public record. And the public record will be a variety of documents. It'll be the project plan, which I'm going to spend a few minutes to go through today. There'll be a public hearing, Plan Commission public hearing today at 4 o'clock. You're welcome to stay for that. And to see if there's any public comment. And if they are comfortable with the project plan, then it will be, they'll act on a resolution. So that'll be another document we're going to ask you to review at the final vote. And then right now it's scheduled to go in front of the City Council on July 22nd. And at that meeting, then there'll be another separate resolution which the council would act upon. And then it'll come back to this group for final action. So this is just informational for you this afternoon, but we will be asking you to take a vote on this at your subsequent meeting, which will be scheduled later on today. So you're reviewing the public record as representatives of the taxing bodies that you represent.
All right. Do we have any questions, comments? Moving on, item 5.
Item 5 is a review of the public or the project plan, the draft project plan. Everybody should have a copy that was provided to you by city. Do you have a copy with you? I just want to make sure everybody has it.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to walk through this without going into all of the numbers, but kind of give you a high-level review of what's occurred in the tax increment district, and then also what we are changing. So there's a couple of reasons you do an amendment. One is project costs have changed, and you're going to update those project costs and provide an update for the other taxing bodies. So you have a view of what's happening with the tax increment district. Another reason is if we're going to change the boundaries of a district, which we are not in this case, there's no change to the boundaries. And then the third reason would be that you're going to be adding new project costs. And so that's why we're here today, is we're adding new project costs, but we're also updating you on the kind of the overall cash flow of the tax increment district as well. So this is a district that was created back in 2005. It's called the Blight District. It kind of winds through, if you will, the downtown area. And there was a variety of projects that were contemplated at that point back in 2005. Being a blight district, it can stay open for up to 27 years. So we have a little bit of time yet in this district, but we're kind of winding it down. The more key date is that you have a expenditure period which is 22 years. So 5 years from the maximum life of the district. So 22 years will be 2027. So any project costs that the city wants to take on that are going to be paid back with TID funds will have to be done by the creation date of 2027, which was September 20th of 2005. So in 2020, by September 20th, 2027, expenditures have to be made in this district to be recouped. What you can continue to pay is debt service, any development agreement payments that were part of an agreed upon development. It could be small administrative costs, annual filings, final audit, those kind of things can still be paid for out of the TID fund. But hard costs, road projects, those kind of things have to be done by that date. So we are winding the district down because of that at this time. We are looking to add $2.7 million in new project costs. They are new project costs. I'll talk about those in some detail, but the city has only taken on a fraction of the original project costs. Not everything that was contemplated back in 2005 has taken place, and nor will they. So you'll see in here that a small percentage of what was actually contemplated back in '05 took place. There's still time if you decide to do that, but we have not contemplated that really in this draft project plan. What was contemplated is that we're going to have $30 million in project costs. Up to this point, only $2.7 million has been spent. So that gives you an idea. Less than 10% of what was contemplated has only taken place. And it's part because some of the redevelopment projects that were being discussed back in 2005 didn't happen. And so those expenses weren't made. And as a result, the revenue didn't come due to that, as a result of that. And we're still in a positive cash position in the tax increment district, and it's still going to close out early. But what we wanted to do was also include these two new projects into the project plan and make them eligible to be paid for out of the TID fund as opposed to being paid for through general tax levy and or water and sewer revenues. And so as we go through this, I'll tell you what those two are. Infrastructure and improvements to East Jackson Street is about $2.4 million and slated really for 2026/27 in that time frame. And then some railroad optimization project also is being contemplated as a result of this amendment. And I'll show you where those are in a little bit. What we have really to show you in the way of mapping is usually pretty extensive, but in this case, we're not changing the boundaries. So we have on page number 6, which is section 2, the original boundary map. That kind of shows you the location of the original district. Again, not changing the boundaries of this district that was created back in 2005. And so a couple of the required maps then kind of aren't needed to be in the project plan because we're not affecting the boundaries in the project plan. If we go to page number 13, we are listing the two projects that are being added in the middle of the page. And the reason they're being added here in this section is because they are adjacent to the tax increment district, but just outside the boundaries of the existing district. So what we're allowed to include as project costs are costs that are within a half mile of the original boundary, which again is the case for East Jackson Street improvements, and the railroad projects are both within that half mile. And that is really reflected in a map that's been included that can be found, found on page. I know it's in here, just give me a second. I saw it earlier. Sorry, on page 15 in the project plan, apologize for that. You'll see the map, in the green kind of highlighted area, the green is the original boundaries of the tax increment district, again, aren't changing. The red line that kind of wraps around, that's the half-mile radius improvement. And then we've highlighted in blue and green and red the different projects that are going to be contemplated as a result of this amendment. The only ones that are outside the boundaries, again, are the the East Jackson Street improvements, which are directly adjacent to the boundaries of the tax increment district, and then that railroad optimization project. So in regards to the finances of this, if you go to section 7, which is the detailed list of estimated project costs, what we have in here is a couple of things. The top chart that you see shows what was in the original project plan, what the first amendment contemplated, which got us to that roughly $30 million in project costs. So those are already approved, previously approved by different joint review boards, plan commission, and city council. What has been spent to date, it was 3.7 million, sorry, I said 2.7, 3.7 million, that's the next column of that $30 million. And what we're gonna be adding again is this 2.7 million in project costs. So, and at the end of the day, we're expecting that the city will be spending somewhere in the ballpark of around 5 to 6 million out of the 30 million estimate. So well below what was projected when the district was created and then amended the first time around. So that allows, even though we haven't seen the same level of development that was projected, allows for a positive cash flow in the district and an early closure projection at this point. So the increment that has been generated to date is on page 18. Table 1, development assumptions. You can see it's fluctuated a great deal. Early on, we saw some development and redevelopment occur, some adjustments that were made, a little bit of growth that occurred. We're at roughly $22 million since the creation of the district. You know, some of this movement that we're seeing, positive and negative in years, can really be attributed to just change in assessments. One thing that we are seeing statewide is a lot of pressure on commercial and industrial properties where they're actually dropping in value, and a lot of the shift in tax revenue and value have been going to the residential side. So this is a very significant commercial area in the city. So we've seen kind of wild fluctuations, but at the end of the day, since 2005, we've seen 22 million of new development occur in this area. And that 22 million generates on the next page about $400,000 of annual revenue that goes into the TID fund that again is then available to pay for the projects that we just talked about. So we are still projecting a declining tax rate. The reason we're doing that is it's what we've seen over the last 5 years in the state of Wisconsin. We've seen property values increase. Same time you have levy limits. You can only restrict your ability to increase your general fund budget by net new construction, and you end up with a declining tax rate. So we are continuing to at least represent over the next decade or so that we're going to continuously slight drops in the tax rate here in the city, but we're projecting that statewide still as a result of what's happened, especially the last 5 to 6 years. Table 3 on page 20 is the overall cash flow, and there's a lot of numbers here. I'll have you kind of just look to the far last two columns of this, which is the cumulative balance and the liabilities that are outstanding. So what we have represented in here is that the projects that are being approved, as hopefully approved as part of this amendment, will be taken on in 25, 26, mostly in 26, and then paid off over the remaining life of the district. And we show the district being able to close 2 years earlier than that 27-year life. So in year 25 of the 27-year allowed, we will have hopefully retired all of the obligations, paid for the projects that are being, again, requested here, and still close out the district a little bit early. So that's a relatively quick review. On section 9, 10, and 11, again, not a lot's going to change here. No annexed property. Again, we're not changing the boundaries, but no annexed property here. We're showing that less than 35% of the territory would be devoted to retail business. That's one of the statutory requirements we need to respond to. Zoning ordinances and those kind of things, master plan, this is all kind of an area for commercial, mixed-use type development. That's not really changing. We're not displacing anybody as a result of this. And again, the public improvements that are being made are significant, being requested. So on page 23, at the top of the page, you'll see that one other requirement that is needed to be in the project plan is we need to identify non-TID expenses related to the project. So not all of East Jackson Street, a project, are going to be paid for through the TID fund. Again, roughly 2.4 million. We're identifying about 625,000 that will have to be paid from other sources, general fund borrowing, whatever it's going to be, but other sources. The same with the 2nd Street, North Street project. A small portion of that would have to come from different funding than the TIF. And then the railroad optimization project is really primarily going to be grant funded. The matching portion will come from TIF as opposed to the city's general fund. So those are the project costs that are outside of the funding through the tax increment district. So with that relatively high level overview of kind of the overall TIF and what's being added, happy to answer any questions you have. Carrie.
My question is related to the $11 million of value added in 2022. I think that definitely sticks out. So without projects being done as part of the TIF, what do we attribute that increase? I know you mentioned fluctuations, but that seems to be a pretty significant fluctuation. And if those fluctuations would come the other way, this TID would be potentially in jeopardy. So I'm just curious if there's any more information that can be shared as to what increase the value, and are we pretty confident that that will not change to the negative for this TID?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of what really drove that $11 million jump in value, Carrie. I don't have that. I don't know if the mayor would have an idea in that area what drove that. I just don't offhand.
I mean, that does seem pretty significant.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
We did work closely with the city's finance director on putting this together. I mean, that's known numbers from the DOR. Could that be an overstatement? If there was, that would have been reflected in 23 already,
Okay.
which we had a small drop of $1 million. So something had to drive that. I don't have that answer, unfortunately. We can probably get it. We'll get it for you before final vote so you know what
Okay.
that is.
Yeah, I think maybe, again, I'm new to this TID and new.
I can speak to that a
Oh,
little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So in around about that time, might have been the year prior, we had the apartment complex, the senior living apartment complex was completed, but I don't believe they valued it fully. We had Wood Trust Bank also do a remodel. I think there were one or two other projects. So I think cumulatively could have added significant value during about 2021, 22 period.
So the value was added, but the cost of those projects were not part of the TID?
Did you hear that question, Kyle?
So they were all private, right there, they were private projects from the private sector that would have potentially increased total value.
Yeah, I don't think there was tied development incentives directly to those projects, so
Okay.
that's why we didn't see those costs.
Yeah, there was,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Was there TID?
TID
money?
assistance provided to those,
There may have been for the apartment complex, like land for, $1, but it wasn't necessarily a pay-go type of TID. There might have been an upfront incentive, but Wood Trust and a couple of the other projects in downtown were not. They were not TID projects. So I think again seeing some added value there, and then I know there was obviously the city's revaluation in, I think it was 24,
which hasn't been.
which I don't think is reflected here
Right.
yet.
Right.
Okay, thank you, I
And
appreciate that.
I would say some of the big projects, why, the 30, when you look at that $30 million number of what didn't occur.
Mhm.
And if you go back to that project list, you'll see a couple in here that are really significant. One was essentially some park improvements that did not occur. Some river wall maintenance has occurred, but not the full amount. There is a relocation of the CN Railroad. There was some work regarding some land acquisition that was, I think, due in part to there was this, I think it was called the Square Project or the Triangle Project, which is going to be a condo development downtown. Some of that did not happen. As a result, that's why we saw the cost come in like 10% of what was anticipated.
Sure. Okay. Well, I appreciate the history and information coming in new to this TID. It just, again, 10% seems pretty low from my experience of using what was available in the TID. So makes sense to me that we would want to try to leverage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Phil, did you have anything else on? Okay,
Nothing.
so item 6, set next meeting date to consider approval of the tax incremental District Number 7 project plan.
I thought, is it Kyle that's on the phone?
Kyle's on the phone, yeah.
Kyle, is there, for some reason, I'm thinking the 22nd got moved, your potential council action?
Kyle, did you hear the question or no?
I did not. What was the question?
We had identified at one point July 22nd for potential council action on the TID amendment. I believe before the holiday, which is probably why it's a little fuzzy, Tim DeSorcy told me that was going to be moved to a later council meeting. Do you know offhand?
Yeah, our normal council meeting in July is the 15th. I have not connected with
Okay.
Tim to confirm, statutorily to meet the notice requirements for council to act. But our normal meeting's the 15th of this month, which
Yeah.
is next Tuesday.
Right, and that is the date that he gave me. So, on the
Okay.
first page, it says July 22nd, it would be next week. And that leads into why I asked the question, because we need a class 1 notice after the meeting on the 15th. And so my recommendation for this group's final action would not occur until the last week of July, so the 28th through essentially August 1st. That would be the earliest that you could hold that final meeting. So I don't know if there's a date that works that week, Mayor.
All right, so right now you need this group to come to a decision on what date's gonna work best for them.
Correct, that last week of July or the first week of August.
All right. Are we able to take a look now and? I'm pretty open Wednesday and Thursday. Jerry? All right, I'll reach out to Aaron also, and so we're looking at 3:30 on the 30th of July. Same time, 3:30, same place, council chambers. If for some reason this room is not available, I will reach out and let everybody know. We'll find a different room. All right, and then before was there anything else, Phil?
Nothing for me, thank you,
All right,
Mayor.
before we adjourn, just since this is the first time I'm doing this, Kyle asked me to move up on the next agenda for Public Works 6 and 7 up to the top so we can go through it. But are we doing something as a group, or is just Planning Commission that, like, what is it that we're doing through the Planning Commission? And do you need us to help with that?
No, Plan Commission is two items. One, there's a public hearing that you'll open, and if you want, take public comment at that point, you can, or I can review the project plan before public comment. So
Okay.
everybody does it a little different.
All right.
Close the public hearing, and then there's action by Plan Commission by resolution to approve the project plan if they see fit.
Okay, so our job is over right now.
Your job here is over,
Okay.
but you could stay if you want.
Yeah. Okay, then, item 7, I guess motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion. Got a second from Jerry, all in favor? All those opposed? Ayes have it. And meeting closes at 4:00 PM. Well done. Yeah.